The battlefield reeked of death and wet earth. 5 years ago, under a moon so full it turned the blood on the ground to silver, Alpha King Marcus Ravencroft tore out the throat of his enemy and sealed his own doom in the same breath. Garrett had been a rogue alpha, a monster who led raids on human settlements and left nothing but ash and orphans in his wake. For 3 years, Marcus had hunted him across the northern territories. For 3 years, the rogue had evaded justice. But on that night, with snow beginning to fall and his pack howling at his back, Marcus had finally cornered the beast. The transformation always hurt, bones cracking like dry wood, skin splitting to make way for fur, the world exploding into 1,000 scents, each one a story. Marcus had welcomed the pain that night. It meant he was still alive, still strong enough to protect his kingdom. Garrett had been bigger in wolf form, all black fur and yellow eyes filled with murder. They circled each other in the clearing while their packs watched from the tree line. This was alpha business. No one would interfere. The fight lasted 7 minutes. 7 minutes of teeth and claws and rage older than memory. Marcus fought with military precision, years of training guiding every strike. Garrett fought like the animal he had become, all instinct and savagery. In the end, discipline beat chaos. It always did. Marcus's jaws closed around Garrett's throat. The rogue's blood was hot and copper on his tongue. He felt the life leaving his enemy's body, felt the exact moment the light went out behind those yellow eyes. Victory tasted like ashes. That was when she appeared. Lydia was barely more than a girl, maybe 20 Winters, with wild red hair and eyes the color of storm clouds. She stumbled into the clearing, her dress torn and muddy, and threw herself across Garrett's cooling body. Her scream split the night like a blade. Marcus shifted back to human form, blood still on his lips. His second-in-command brought him clothes. The pack waited in respectful silence. They had won. The rogue was dead. Justice was served. But Lydia looked up at him with those storm cloud eyes, and Marcus saw something that made his warrior's heart falter. Love. She had loved the monster, and he had killed him before their mate bond could fully form. She stood, swaying, her hands glowing with a sickly green light. Witch! Marcus reached for the silver blade at his hip, but she was faster. Her voice came out cracked and broken, but the words hit like hammer blows. You killed him before our bond could form. Feel that pain sevenfold, Beast King. 7 women will refuse you. With each rejection, the beast within grows. The 7th refusal will consume you entirely. Only one born of the bloodline of mercy can break this curse, if she claims you before the beast takes all. Then she drove a dagger into her own heart. Witch magic and dying rage poured out of her in a wave of green fire. It washed over Marcus like acid. He felt something alien and terrible take root in his chest. Felt his wolf, always a part of him, suddenly become separate. Aware. Hungry. His pack carried him back to the castle. For 3 days he burned with fever. When he finally woke, the wolf in his head spoke to him for the first time. Mine. Need mate. Hunt. Kill. 5 years had passed since that night. 5 long years of fighting for control of his own mind. The curse worked exactly as Lydia had promised. 6 women had come to his castle, 6 potential mates. Each one had been carefully chosen, noble, beautiful, strong. Each one had looked into his eyes, seen the beast lurking just beneath the surface, and refused him. With each rejection, the wolf grew stronger. Now it never shut up. Now his claws extended when he was stressed and would not retract fully. Now his eyes flashed gold at random moments. Now the courtiers whispered that the king was more beast than man. They were right. Marcus stood at his window in the highest tower of Ironmore Castle and watched the sun rise over his kingdom. 30 days until the full moon. 30 days to find the 7th woman. 30 days before the beast won, and the man disappeared forever. Below in the courtyard, his soldiers trained. The rhythmic clash of steel on steel was a comfort. Those men would follow him into any battle. They did not know their king was already losing the only war that mattered. The door opened without a knock. Only one man in the castle would dare such familiarity. Lord Chancellor Thornwood was old enough to remember Marcus as a boy, before the crown, before the curse, before everything went to hell. "Your Majesty, we have found someone." Marcus did not turn from the window. His voice came out rougher than he intended. The beast was always closer to the surface now. Where? Millhaven, a border village. Her name is Elena Winters, 23 years old, unmarried. Her father was injured in a rogue attack last month. The family is destitute. She volunteered when the village elder announced we were seeking a personal servant. She volunteered. Marcus finally turned to face Thornwood. The old chancellor's face was grave. They both knew what volunteering meant. Desperation. No sane woman came to serve the Beast King by choice. When does she arrive? Today, Your Majesty, before noon. Marcus felt the wolf stir in his chest. Omega. Hunt. Mine. He slammed his fist against the stone wall, welcoming the pain that cleared his head. Prepare the throne room. And Thornwood, find out everything about her. I need to know if she carries the bloodline. The chancellor bowed and left. Marcus turned back to the window. Somewhere out there, a desperate young woman was traveling to meet her doom. He should feel guilty. He should send her away the moment she arrived. He should face his fate like a man instead of dragging an innocent into his cursed existence. But Marcus had learned something in 5 years of fighting the beast. Guilt was a luxury. Survival was all that mattered. If this Elena Winters carried even a drop of the bloodline of mercy, he would use her without hesitation. He would do anything, sacrifice anyone, to stay human. The wolf laughed in his head. No mercy, only hunger. Marcus closed his eyes and prayed to gods he no longer believed in. Let her be the one. Let her break this curse. Let this nightmare finally end. 3 days earlier, in the village of Millhaven, Elena Winters sat beside her father's bed and made calculations that tasted like poison. William Winters had been a strong man once, a miller by trade, respected in the village, known for his fair prices and honest weights. Then the rogues came in the night, and everything changed. He survived the attack, but his leg did not. Now he lay in a bed he could not afford, in a house facing eviction, with medical bills piling up like snow in winter. Her younger brother Finn coughed in the next room. 11 years old and struggling to breathe. The sickness in his lungs needed medicine that cost more than the family made in a year. Without treatment, the village healer said, he had maybe 6 months. Elena stared at the numbers in her mother's old ledger. No matter how she arranged them, they did not add up to survival. The family was drowning, and she was the only one who could swim. The village elder's announcement came like an answer to a prayer she had been too afraid to speak. The castle needed a personal servant for the king. Royal wages, 50 gold pieces per month, medical care for the servant's family, protection. Everyone knew about the Beast King. Everyone knew that 6 women had gone to serve him, and 6 women had returned broken. The last one, Rebecca, would not speak of what she had seen in the castle. She just rocked back and forth and whispered about golden eyes and blood on the throne. But 50 gold pieces per month would save her father, would heal Finn, would give her family a future. All Elena had to do was survive where others had failed. She spent 2 days tracking down the women who had served the king and lived. 3 of them agreed to speak with her, though fear haunted their eyes even months later. The first woman, Margaret, had lasted 4 days. "He is not cruel by nature," she whispered over weak tea. "He is fighting something inside him. You can see it in his eyes, the man trying to hold back the monster." The second woman, Catherine, had made it 6 days. She spoke more plainly. "Do not cower. He hates weakness. It triggers something in him, makes him worse. Stand tall, meet his eyes, show him you are not afraid even when you are terrified." The third woman, old Agnes's niece Sarah, had served him for 5 days before fleeing. "He tests you," she said. "Impossible tasks designed to make you fail. But if you succeed, if you find creative solutions, I swear I saw something like respect in his face. Just for a moment. Then the beast in him would return, and the moment was gone." Elena absorbed every word. She learned that the king had been a war hero once, before the curse, that his mother had died when he was young, murdered by political rivals, that he had loved once and been betrayed so completely it broke something in him. The curse was not what made him a beast. It was just finishing a transformation that pain had started. She also learned about the castle's layout, the servants' routines, the guards' schedules. She studied the king's patterns like a general planning a campaign. If she was marching into the dragon's lair, she would not go blind. The night before she left, Elena sat with her father. He held her hand with the strength he had left. "You do not have to do this, little bird. We will find another way." "There is no other way, Papa." She kissed his weathered cheek. "And I am not afraid. It was a lie. She was terrified, but fear had never stopped her before. Her mother's silver locket hung around her neck, the only thing of value the family had not sold. Elena's fingers found it in moments of stress, tracing the delicate engraving. Her mother had died giving birth to Finn. Her last words, whispered to the midwife, had been about the locket. "Give this to Elena when the time comes. She will know what it means." Elena had never understood that message. The locket was beautiful but unremarkable, just silver and old-fashioned design, yet wearing it made her feel stronger somehow, protected. The cart ride to Ironmore Castle took 3 days. Samuel, the driver, was a kind man who tried repeatedly to convince her to turn back. By the second day, he had given up arguing and just looked at her with pity. They joined a supply caravan on the final leg of the journey. The caravan was protected by castle guards, hard-eyed men in the king's colors who moved with military precision. The captain of the guard was a man named Declan Stone, and he looked like someone had carved him from granite and forgotten to add softness. Captain Stone rode alongside the carts, his wolf visible just beneath his human skin. Elena had grown up in werewolf territory. She knew the signs, the unnatural grace, the way his head tilted when listening, tracking sounds human ears could not catch, the gold flecks in his eyes that caught the light. On the third day, he rode close to her cart. "You are the one volunteering for the king's service." It was not a question, but Elena answered anyway. "Yes, sir." "Do you know what you are walking into, girl?" She met his eyes without flinching. "I know 6 women have tried and failed. I know the king is cursed. I know the castle whispers that he is more beast than man now." Declan's expression did not change, but something flickered in his gaze. Respect, maybe, or pity. "And you come anyway." "My family needs the wages, sir, and everyone deserves a chance at redemption, even cursed kings." The captain snorted. "Wolves do not get redemption, girl. We get survival or death." "Then I will teach him there is a third option." For the first time, Declan smiled. It was not a kind expression. "You have courage. Let us see if you have enough." As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Ironmore Castle appeared on the skyline. It rose from the rocky hills like something from a nightmare, all black stone and sharp towers. Torches burned in the windows even in daylight. The gate stood open but unwelcoming, like a mouth waiting to swallow her whole. Elena's locket grew warm against her skin. The sensation was so sudden and strange that she gasped. Her hand flew to her chest, feeling the heat radiating through her dress. Captain Declan reined his horse close, his nostrils flaring. "You smell different. Not quite human." Elena's heart hammered. "What do you mean?" The captain's eyes narrowed, gold completely consuming the brown now. He was close to his wolf. "What are you, Elena Winters?" "I do not know." The admission felt like vulnerability she could not afford, but lying to a werewolf was suicide. "I have always been different. Small things. Animals trust me. Wounds heal faster. Dreams of silver-eyed wolves. But I am human, Captain. I swear it." Declan studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded, though he looked troubled. "When you meet the king, do not be afraid. Fear triggers the wolf, and his wolf is barely leashed these days." The caravan passed through the gates. Elena's life as she knew it ended, and something else began. The throne room was designed to intimidate. Vaulted ceilings soared overhead, disappearing into shadows that torches could not penetrate. Columns carved with scenes of ancient battles lined the walls. The floor was polished black stone that reflected distorted images like a dark mirror. At the far end, elevated on a dais of obsidian, sat the throne, and on the throne sat the king, Alpha King. Marcus Ravencroft did not look like a beast at first glance. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the build of a man who had spent his life in armor. Dark hair touched with gray at the temples, strong features that might have been handsome if they had not been so hard. He wore black leather and steel, a warrior's clothes, not the finery of court. But his eyes gave him away. They flashed between human brown and wolf gold, shifting like storm clouds, and his hands gripped the arms of the throne so tightly that Elena could see claws, actual claws, digging into the wood. They were neither fully extended nor fully retracted, as if his body could not decide which form it wanted. The court was assembled, nobles in silk and servants in homespun, all keeping a careful distance from the throne. 10 feet, Elena noted. No one stood closer than 10 feet, as if proximity to the king was dangerous. Lord Chancellor Thornwood stood beside the throne, his white beard and grave expression lending him the air of a worried grandfather. He cleared his throat, and the murmuring crowd fell silent. "Your Majesty, may I present Elena Winters of Millhaven. She comes to serve as your personal attendant." Elena walked forward, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. She stopped at the base of the dais, exactly 10 feet from the throne, and curtsied, "Your Majesty." The moment she spoke, Marcus's head snapped up. His eyes locked on hers, and Elena felt something strange twist in her chest. A pull, like a rope had been tied around her heart, and someone on the other end had just yanked it. The king's entire body went rigid, his claws extended fully, punching through the wooden throne arms. A low growl rumbled from his chest, more animal than human. The court took a collective step backward. "Omega, ours, mine, claim now." The words did not come from the king's mouth, but Elena heard them anyway. They echoed in her skull, raw and hungry and utterly inhuman. She realized with creeping horror that she was hearing the wolf, the curse, the thing fighting for control of the king's mind. Marcus's eyes were pure gold now, no trace of brown remaining. His breathing came hard and fast. Veins of silver light traced patterns beneath his skin, visible through his shirt. He looked like a man at war with himself, and losing. Thornwood moved slightly, as if to intervene, but Marcus raised one hand. The gesture was shaky, but commanding. The Chancellor froze. When the king finally spoke, his voice carried a double tone, human words layered over an animal growl. "You are the 7th. "Yes, Your Majesty." "Do you understand what that means?" Elena kept her chin up, her voice steady. That 6 others lacked the courage to stay. Something flickered in Marcus's expression. Surprise, maybe. Courage? They had survival instinct. "I am cursed, girl. Each day I am less man, more beast. Why volunteer for such a fate? Because curse or not, you still fight for control. I saw it just now. The wolf wanted to attack, and the man held it back. That makes you worth saving, Your Majesty." The throne room was so quiet, Elena could hear her own heartbeat. The nobles stared at her like she had lost her mind. Perhaps she had, but the words felt true, and she had learned long ago to trust her instincts. Marcus leaned forward, his clawed hand still embedded in the throne. "You know nothing about me. I know you were a war hero once. I know your mother taught you mercy before she was murdered. I know you have fought this curse for 5 years, and you are still here, still trying. That is enough." The king's laugh was bitter and broken. "You are either a fool or a liar. Which is it, Elena Winters?" "Neither, Your Majesty. I am desperate. My family will die without the wages you offer. So I will serve you, and I will not break like the others, because failure is not an option I can afford." Honest desperation. Marcus sat back, and some of the tension left his frame. His eyes faded to brown, though gold still flickered at the edges. The wolf retreated, for now. "Lord Thornwood, bring the contract." The Chancellor produced a scroll of parchment, old and official-looking. He unrolled it on a small table near the dais. Elena approached and scanned the terms. 30 days of service, room and board provided, 50 gold pieces per month, with medical care extended to immediate family. Standard enough, except for the final clause. Should the servant refuse the king's suit, all payments will be forfeit, and service will be immediately terminated. Should the servant accept the king's suit, the contract becomes permanent and binding. Suit, a delicate word for what was really being discussed. The king needed a mate, someone to accept the bond and break the curse. Elena was candidate number 7. If she refused him, the curse would complete. If she accepted, she would be bound to him for life. Werewolf mates lived for centuries, linked at the soul. Her hand trembled only slightly as she picked up the quill. Lord Thornwood offered a small blade. Blood signature. Old magic. Binding. Elena pricked her finger and watched a drop of blood fall onto the parchment. The moment it touched the paper, silver light exploded outward. The entire throne room flooded with it, bright enough to make people shield their eyes. When the light faded, every person in the room was staring at Elena like she had sprouted wings. Thornwood's face had gone pale. His hands shook as he lifted the contract. Impossible. "What is it?" Marcus was on his feet now, descending the dais steps with predatory grace. "What just happened?" The Chancellor's voice barely rose above a whisper. "She has the bloodline. She is a descendant of the Mercy line, the only humans who could bond with cursed wolves." Marcus stopped 3 feet from Elena, close enough that she could see the silver veins still glowing faintly under his skin, close enough to feel the heat radiating from him. His eyes searched her face like he was trying to read her soul. "You feel it? The pull between us?" Elena's heart was racing so fast she felt dizzy. "Yes." When the king spoke again, his voice was softer. "Resigned. Fate. Or doom. We will discover which." The next morning began before dawn. Elena had been given a small room in the servants' wing, clean and functional. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt that pull, that rope around her heart tugging her towards something she could not name. A knock on her door came just as the sun touched the horizon. Captain Declan stood in the corridor, his face unreadable. "The king requests your presence in the training yard." Elena dressed quickly and followed the captain through corridors still dark with pre-dawn shadows. Ironmore Castle was a maze of stone and secrets. She tried to memorize the path but gave up after the fourth turn. The training yard was a large courtyard open to the sky, surrounded by high walls. Weapons racks lined the perimeter. The ground was hard-packed dirt, stained dark in places. Blood, Elena realized. Old blood that had soaked so deep no amount of rain could wash it away. 2 wolves circled each other in the center of the yard. Not men, wolves. Huge creatures, one gray and one brown, their muscles rippling under thick fur. They moved with the fluid grace of predators, testing each other, looking for openings. Marcus stood at the edge of the yard, arms crossed, watching. He wore training leathers, and his hair was tied back. In the morning light, he looked younger, almost human. He glanced at Elena as she approached. "My previous servants broke from fear. Let us see if you break from reality." The wolves attacked. It happened so fast Elena almost missed it. The gray wolf feinted left, and the brown wolf took the bait. In an instant, the gray had its jaws around the brown's throat, not biting down, but holding. Dominance asserted, submission required. The brown wolf went still. After 3 heartbeats, the gray released him. Both shifted back to human form, naked and unself-conscious. They were young men, maybe mid-20s, breathing hard but grinning. One of them, the gray wolf, had a deep gash across his ribs. Blood ran down his side in rivulets. He laughed at his opponent, said something crude about technique, and then his legs buckled. Elena moved without thinking. She crossed the yard at a run, dropping to her knees beside the injured man. The wound was deep, dangerous. She pressed her hands over it, applying pressure. She needed cloth, needed to slow the bleeding, needed to keep him conscious. The injured wolf snarled at her, his eyes flashing gold. His teeth were still sharp, still capable of tearing her throat out. She did not move. "Easy," she said softly, like she was calming a spooked horse. "I am here to help. Let me help." The wolf snapped at her face, close enough that she felt the wind from his jaws. Behind her, she heard movement, shouting, then a roar that shook the walls. Marcus exploded across the yard. One moment he was 20 feet away, the next he was there, and he was not entirely human anymore. His face had elongated, his teeth extended into fangs, his hands tipped with claws like daggers. He was caught between forms, trapped in the space between man and beast. "Mine no hurt, mate." The voice was not Marcus's. It was the wolf's, speaking through the king's mouth. The injured beta scrambled backward, whimpering submission. Every wolf in the yard had frozen, heads bowed, necks bared. Marcus stood over Elena, his body shaking with the effort of control. She could see the war playing out on his face. The wolf wanted to attack, to punish, to kill anything that threatened its mate. The man was fighting to pull the beast back, to remember that the injured beta had meant no harm. Slowly, painfully, Marcus's features shifted back to human. The claws retracted, the fangs shortened. His breathing came in ragged gasps. When he finally looked down at Elena, his eyes were his own again, brown, and filled with something that might have been shame. "You are bleeding." Elena looked down. 4 parallel scratches ran across her forearm where the beta's claws had caught her. She had not even felt it happen. The wounds were shallow but would scar. "It is nothing, Your Majesty." "Do not lie to me." Marcus's voice was rough. He pulled her to her feet with surprising gentleness. His hand on her arm was warm, and that strange pull in her chest intensified. To the beta, who was still prostrate on the ground, "Apologize to her, now." The young man's voice shook. "I am sorry, my lady. I did not mean to harm you. The wolf, he does not always think." Elena found herself smiling. "Neither do I, apparently. Are you all right?" The beta blinked at her like she had started speaking in tongues. She just asked if he was all right after he nearly tore her face off, someone muttered. Marcus made a sound that might have been a laugh or a growl or both. Take him to the healer, and someone fetch bandages for Lady Winters. Lady, not servant. Elena caught the slip but said nothing. The beta was led away, still casting confused glances over his shoulder. The other wolves dispersed, giving their king and his strange new servant a wide berth. Captain Declan approached with a strip of clean linen. You have courage, I will grant you that. He wrapped her arm with practiced efficiency. Stupid courage, but courage nonetheless. Marcus stood with his back to them, his shoulders tense. When Declan finished and retreated, the king turned. His face was carefully blank, but Elena was learning to read the small signs. The way his jaw clenched, the way his hands flexed at his sides. He was angry, but not at her. You ran toward danger, not away from it. He was injured. Someone needed to help him. He could have killed you. Would have, if the wolf had been fully in control. But you stopped him. Elena held his gaze. You protected me, Your Majesty, just as I knew you would. Something in Marcus's expression cracked. He looked away, toward the rising sun, and his voice came out barely above a whisper. I am not your hero, Elena Winters. The wolf did that, not the man. I would have let you learn from the bite. Pain is an excellent teacher. Liar. The word was out before Elena could stop it. She expected anger, punishment, dismissal. Instead, Marcus looked at her with something like wonder. What did you say? Your eyes were human when you moved, Your Majesty. Not gold, brown. It was the man who saved me, not the beast. You can pretend otherwise, but I know what I saw. For a long moment, the king simply stared at her. Then he shook his head, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. You are either the bravest woman I have ever met, or the most foolish. Perhaps both. This time Marcus definitely laughed. It was a rusty sound, like something that had not been used in years. Come. We have wasted enough of the morning. You have work to do. He turned and walked toward the castle. Elena followed, her arm throbbing, but her heart strangely light. Behind her, she heard Captain Declan speaking quietly to another guard. The king laughed. When was the last time you heard that? Cannot remember. Must have been before the curse. This girl is going to get herself killed, or save us all. Not sure which. Elena touched her mother's locket and felt that strange warmth again, stronger now. Whatever was happening, whatever fate she had walked into, there was no turning back. She had 30 days to break a curse, save a king, and keep her family alive. The beast inside Marcus might think she was his mate. The bond might be pulling them together like gravity. But Elena Winters had never been content to be swept along by forces beyond her control. If she was going to save the Beast King, she would do it on her own terms. And if that meant facing down demons, werewolves, and the king's own darkness, then that was exactly what she would do. The morning stretched into afternoon as Marcus tested her with tasks that should have been impossible. Clean the king's chambers without moving his weapons, organize the library without reading the spines, polish armor without leaving fingerprints. Each task seemed designed to fail, traps laid for the unwary. Elena approached each challenge like a puzzle. She used mirrors to read book spines from angles. She wore soft cloth gloves to polish armor. She cleaned around weapons with the patience of a woman defusing a bomb. Marcus watched from doorways and shadows, his expression unreadable. By evening, every task was complete. Elena found the king in his private study, surrounded by maps and military reports. He glanced up as she entered, and something flickered across his face. Surprise? Respect. Then the mask fell back into place. You succeeded. His tone suggested this displeased him. You gave me challenges, Your Majesty, not impossibilities. There is a difference. Most people do not see it. Elena moved to the window, looking out at the darkening sky. Most people see what you want them to see. A beast, a monster, a king too cruel to serve. But I see a man who designs tests that can be passed if the servant is clever enough. You do not want us to fail, Your Majesty. You want us to be worthy. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken things. When Marcus finally spoke, his voice was soft. Dangerous. You presume to know my mind? I presume to see patterns. You are not random in your cruelty. Every test has a solution. You are looking for something, someone, and the 6 before me were not it. And you think you are? Elena turned from the window to face him. I think I'm still here. That counts for something. Marcus rose from his desk and crossed to stand before her. They were close again, that pull between them electric and undeniable. His eyes searched her face, and Elena saw exhaustion there. Years of fighting, years of loneliness, years of hope slowly dying. 29 days, he said quietly. That is all we have. The full moon rises in 29 days. If you refuse me before then, the curse completes. If you accept me, you bind yourself to this for eternity. Do you understand? I understand the terms, Your Majesty. Do you understand the reality? I am not a romantic hero from a bard's tale. I have killed hundreds. I will kill hundreds more. There is a beast in my head that never stops talking, never stops demanding blood and violence and dominance. Some days I barely remember what it feels like to be human. That is what you would be binding yourself to. Not the man you imagine I could be, but the monster I already am. Elena reached up slowly, giving him time to move away. He did not. Her fingers touched his face, tracing the line of his jaw. She felt him shudder. You are not a monster, Marcus Ravencroft. You are a man cursed. And every moment you fight to stay human, every time you hold back the wolf, you prove that the curse does not own you. Not yet, not ever, if I have anything to say about it. His hand came up to cover hers, pressing her palm against his face. The touch was gentle, desperate. Do not make me hope. Hope is more cruel than any curse. Then do not hope, just let me try. They stood like that for 3 heartbeats. 3 moments of perfect stillness in a world that would not stop spinning. Then Marcus pulled away, and the walls came back up, and he was the Beast King again. Your quarters are in the East Wing. Meals are delivered at dawn, noon, and dusk. Do not wander the castle after dark. The guards have orders to escort you back to your room if found outside of it. Because it is dangerous? Because I am dangerous. Marcus turned back to his desk. During the full moon, the wolf is stronger. I cannot guarantee your safety if we encounter each other in dark corridors. So for both our sakes, Elena Winters, stay locked behind your door when night falls. She left him there, surrounded by his maps and his demons. As the door closed behind her, she heard something that might have been a sigh or might have been a growl. With Marcus, it was impossible to tell the difference. Elena made her way through the corridors, following the path Captain Declan had shown her. But as she turned a corner, she nearly collided with someone. The woman was breathtaking. Raven black hair, porcelain skin, eyes like ice chips. She wore a gown that must have cost more than Elena's entire village made in a year. And when she smiled, her teeth seemed just a touch too sharp. You must be the new girl. The woman's voice was silk over steel. How delightful. I am Lady Seraphina Ashworth, an old friend of the king's. Elena curtsied, though something in her gut said this woman was dangerous. Lady Ashworth. No need for formality, dear. Seraphina's smile widened. We servants must stick together, after all. I am not a servant, my lady. I am the king's personal attendant. Ah, yes, the 7th. Tell me, dear, do you know what happened to the 6 before you? They left. They fled. Seraphina circled Elena like a predator examining prey. They ran screaming from the castle, some in the dead of night, all of them broken in ways that time will not mend. Do you know why? Because they were not strong enough. The lady's laugh was like breaking glass. Oh, you are precious. No, dear. They left because they saw the truth. Marcus Ravencroft is not some misunderstood hero waiting to be saved. He is a beast wearing a man's skin, and that skin gets thinner every day. One day soon, it will tear completely, and when it does, anyone standing close will be torn apart along with it. Elena held the woman's gaze. Thank you for your concern, Lady Ashworth. I will keep it in mind. Do more than keep it in mind. Run, Elena Winters, while you still can. Some fates are worse than poverty. Then Seraphina glided past, leaving a chill in her wake and the faintest scent of something wrong, something that made Elena's locket burn hot against her skin. She did not run. She walked to her quarters, locked the door as instructed, and sat on the edge of her bed. Her arm ached from the scratches. Her mind spun with everything that had happened. But beneath it all, that pull toward Marcus grew stronger, like a tide that would not be denied. 29 days to break a curse. 29 days to save a king from himself. 29 days to decide if she would bind herself to him for eternity or watch him become the beast forever. Elena Winters had always been a fighter. Poverty had made her strong. Loss had made her resilient. And if the Beast King needed someone who would not break, who would not run, who would stand in the fire and refuse to burn, then he had found exactly the right woman. Or she had found him. In the end, perhaps it did not matter which. They were bound now by blood and magic and something deeper than either. The only question was whether that bond would save them or destroy them both. Outside her window the moon rose, not yet full but growing. Somewhere in the castle, a wolf howled, and Elena closed her eyes and let herself feel the pull, that rope around her heart, tugging her toward a fate she could not see but would not escape. 29 days. The game had begun. The eastern border had not seen peace in 3 generations. The forest there grew thick and dark, the kind of wilderness that swallowed men whole and gave nothing back but bones. Captain Declan Stone knew every mile of that cursed territory. He had lost good soldiers to it, good friends. Now he was bringing a human woman into the heart of the darkness, and every instinct screamed that this was suicide. Elena Winters sat in the supply cart, her silver locket catching the afternoon sun. 3 days had passed since she left Ironmore Castle. 3 days of traveling with 50 battle-hardened wolves toward a war she should never have volunteered for. But the bond pulled at her constantly now, a physical ache in her chest that grew worse with distance. Marcus felt it too. She knew because twice during the journey she had woken in the night with phantom pain in her ribs, a wound she did not have, and known he was hurt. The separation was killing them slowly. But the alternative was worse. If Marcus stayed at the castle with her, the eastern villages would burn. If she stayed while he went to war, Seraphina's vampires would have free rein to attack an undermanned fortress. So they had made the only choice that gave both fronts a fighting chance. They split their forces, and themselves, and prayed the bond would hold long enough for victory. "You should eat something." Declan offered her dried meat from his rations. "You have not touched food since breakfast." Elena took the meat without appetite. Her stomach had been churning for hours. How far to the border camp? 2 hours, maybe 3. The rogues know we are coming. They will make us work for every mile. As if summoned by his words, the howl split the air. It came from the north, close enough to make the horses stamp nervously. Then another howl answered from the south, and another from the east. The caravan was surrounded. "Defensive formation." Declan's voice cracked like a whip. "Carts to the center, civilians inside the circle, fighters on the perimeter, now." The transformation took seconds. 50 men became 50 wolves, a coordinated shift that spoke of years fighting together. They formed a living wall around the carts, fur bristling, teeth bared. Elena found herself pressed against the wagon side between 2 elderly supply masters who shook with terror. The rogues came out of the tree line like shadows given teeth. 20 of them, maybe more. They were larger than Declan's wolves, wild and scarred and mad with bloodlust. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dimming light. Their growls harmonized into something that barely sounded animal anymore. The first rogue lunged. Declan met it head-on, his jaws closing around its throat before it could strike. They went down in a tangle of fur and fury. All along the perimeter, combat erupted, the organized discipline of Declan's pack against the savage chaos of rogues who fought like they had nothing to lose. Elena pressed her hands over her ears as the sounds of battle filled the world. Snarling, yelping, the wet crunch of bone breaking. She had seen the training yard at Ironmore, but that had been practice. This was war. Blood sprayed across the dirt in dark arcs. A young wolf from Declan's pack went down screaming, his leg torn open. Another rogue had its skull crushed by a coordinated attack from 3 soldiers. Then one broke through the line. It happened so fast that Elena barely registered movement before the rogue was there, inside the circle, its yellow eyes fixed on her with terrifying intelligence. It knew what she was. Knew the king's mate was the most valuable target on the field. The rogue lunged. Elena threw herself sideways, hitting the ground hard. Claws raked the space where her head had been. She rolled, came up with the silver dagger Declan had given her, clutched in shaking hands. The rogue circled, savoring the moment. It could kill her slowly. Take its time. Declan's roar shook the trees. The captain barreled into the rogue from the side, driving it away from Elena. They fought with the brutal efficiency of alpha versus alpha, though Declan was only beta. He was older, smarter, and fighting for something beyond himself. The rogue was younger and stronger, but sloppy with rage. The fight lasted 30 seconds, felt like hours. Declan's jaws found the rogue's throat and did not let go until the struggling stopped. When it was over, 20 rogues lay dead or dying. 5 of Declan's wolves were wounded, 2 seriously, but they had held. The caravan was safe. Declan shifted back to human form, blood on his mouth and murder in his eyes. He stalked to Elena, grabbed her shoulders. "Are you hurt?" "No." Her voice shook. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet." He looked toward the forest where more howls echoed. This was a probe. "They know we are coming now. The real fight has not even started." That night, they made camp in a clearing with fires burning high and guards posted in every direction. Elena tended the wounded wolves, her hands surprisingly steady once she had work to focus on. The young wolf with the torn leg, a soldier named Owen, gritted his teeth as she stitched muscle back together. "You have done this before," he gasped. "My father was a miller. Machinery accidents taught me field medicine." She tied off the suture. "You will limp for a week, but you will heal." The king chose well. Owen's eyes were hazy with pain but sincere. "An Omega who does not freeze under attack. That is rare. I am not Omega." Elena cleaned her hands in a water bucket. "I am human. You are the king's mate, same thing to us." She wanted to argue, but what was the point? The bond was real. She felt Marcus even now, felt his rage and fear pulsing through the connection. He had sensed the attack, known she was in danger. The distance between them was agony amplified by shared terror. Declan found her after midnight staring into the fire. "You should rest. Tomorrow will be harder. I cannot sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I feel him. The bond." The captain settled beside her, his scarred face thoughtful in the firelight. "It will get worse before it gets better." Separation sickness. For mated pairs, it feels like dying slowly. "We are not mated. Not fully." Declan snorted. "The bond does not care about technicalities. Your blood signed that contract in silver light. The magic recognized what you are to each other. Now your souls are tied, whether you have completed the physical mating or not." Elena touched her locket, felt the familiar warmth. "How long can we survive like this?" "A week. Maybe 2 if you are both strong." The captain's tone was grim. "After that, the separation will start killing you. Shut down your organs one by one. You will have to choose. Complete the bond and become his mate fully, or break it and die." "What if I'm not ready to choose?" "Then you die anyway. Slowly. Painfully." Declan met her eyes. "This is not a game, Elena. The magic does not negotiate. You have days, not weeks. So I suggest you figure out what you want while you still can." She lay awake after he left, staring at the stars through the branches. Somewhere under that same sky, Marcus stood watch on Ironmoor's walls. She felt him like a ghost in her bones, tired, hurt, fighting constantly to maintain control as the bond frayed with distance. They had 26 days until the full moon, but the bond might not last that long. One more impossible timeline to race against, one more way to fail. Elena closed her eyes and reached through the bond deliberately. She did not know if it would work, had no training in such things, but she poured everything she had into the connection. Warmth, comfort, a wordless message that translated roughly to, "I am here. I am alive. Hold on." For just a moment, she felt his response, a pulse of desperate relief and bone-deep exhaustion. Then nothing but the ache again. 26 days. While Elena fought for survival on the eastern border, Ironmoor Castle prepared for siege. Marcus stood in the war room surrounded by maps and grim-faced advisors, and felt his control slipping like sand through his fingers. The bond was a constant scream in his head, louder even than the wolf. Every moment Elena was in danger, he felt it. When the rogues attacked her caravan, he had been meeting with supply masters, and he had collapsed in the middle of the conversation. The pain in his chest was so sharp he thought someone had driven a blade between his ribs. His wolf had surged forward, ready to tear through anyone between him and his mate. It took 4 guards to hold him down while the rage passed. Now he stood over the map of his kingdom, marked with enemy positions, and tried to focus through the bond sickness. Tried to be the king his people needed instead of the desperate animal he was becoming. Thornwood cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, the scouts report vampire movements in the northern forest. At least 20 confirmed sightings. They are gathering for another assault." "How long until they are ready?" Marcus's voice came out strangled. 3 days. Maybe 4. The Chancellor hesitated. Sire, perhaps we should recall the Eastern forces. Bring Lady Winters back to the castle where she can be properly protected. No. Marcus's claws extended, gouging the map table. If we pull Declan's unit, the border falls. Thousands die. Elena stays where she is. Your Majesty, with respect, you are barely functional without her. The separation is destroying you. Another few days, and you will be useless in battle. Then I will be useless. Marcus looked up, and every man in the room took an involuntary step back. His eyes were gold, pure and unblinking. But those villages do not burn, those people do not die. We hold both fronts, no matter the cost. Even if the cost is you, Thornwood's voice was soft. Especially if the cost is me. A king who sacrifices his people to save himself is no king at all. My mother taught me that before she died. The room fell silent. Marcus turned back to the maps, dismissing them all without words. They filed out, leaving him alone with his demons and the ghost of Elena in his chest. That night, he walked the battlements, inspecting defenses he had checked a dozen times already. The wolf was relentless now, a constant presence demanding he abandon reason and go to his mate. Mine, need her, go now, bring Omega home. Cannot. Marcus spoke aloud to the beast, past caring if guards heard him talking to himself. She is safer there. Seraphina would kill her if she were here. Then kill Seraphina. Kill all vampires. Protect mate. It is not that simple. Is that simple? Kill threats, take mate, live. The wolf's worldview was beautifully uncomplicated. See problem, eliminate problem. But Marcus had learned long ago that leadership required complexity, required sacrifice, required making choices that tore pieces from your soul. He felt Elena then, reaching through the bond. Her warmth flooded him like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. She was alive. She was strong. She was telling him without words to hold on, to stay human, to wait for her. Marcus gripped the stone wall until his claws drew sparks from the granite. He would wait. He would hold. Even if it killed him, he would give her the time she needed. The vampire attack came at midnight on the 4th day. Seraphina led them personally this time, her beauty terrible in the torchlight. She wore black armor that gleamed like beetle shell. Her hair whipped in an unfelt wind. When she smiled, her fangs were as white as bone. Marcus Ravencroft. Her voice carried across the courtyard like poison. Come out and face me, Beast King, or hide behind your walls while my children tear them down. Marcus stood on the battlements, every wolf in the castle at his back. He had 100 soldiers. Seraphina brought 40 vampires, all of them ancient and skilled. The math was simple. Math was brutal. You want me, Seraphina? Come and take me. Her laugh was cruel music. Oh, I intend to. But first I think I will paint your walls with wolf blood, just to watch you suffer. The vampires attacked. They did not charge like the rogues had charged Elena's caravan. They moved like smoke, like shadows, impossibly fast and utterly silent until their claws found flesh. The castle walls meant nothing to creatures who could climb sheer stone like spiders. Marcus's wolves met them with coordinated defense learned through centuries of war. They fought in pairs, one holding the vampire's attention while the other struck from behind. They used silver-tipped spears and arrows, firebrands and blessed steel, every weapon they had hoarded for this moment. The courtyard became an abattoir. Blood slicked the cobblestones, making footing treacherous. The vampires were faster, stronger, nearly immortal. But the wolves had numbers and home advantage. They held the choke points. They rotated fresh fighters into the line. They made every vampire pay for every foot gained. Marcus fought in half-wolf form, the balance point where he maintained human thought with wolf strength. He killed 3 vampires in the first 5 minutes, his claws tearing through undead flesh that crumbled to ash at his touch. But for every vampire that fell, 2 wolves went down. The math was still brutal, still wrong. Seraphina found him in the chaos. She moved like death-given form, her sword flashing silver in the firelight. They met in the center of the courtyard, Alpha and Vampire, and the battle around them paused, as if both armies sensed this was the fight that mattered. She was fast, impossibly fast. Her blade opened a gash across his ribs before he could dodge. He healed instantly, but the pain was real. Her next strike went for his throat. He caught her wrist, twisted, heard bones snap. She laughed and broke his nose with her free hand. They traded blows like that for minutes that felt like hours. Neither could land a killing strike. Neither would yield. Around them, wolves and vampires died, but the Alpha and the vampire lady were locked in their own private war. Then Serafina made a mistake. She mentioned Elena. "Your little Omega is dying on the eastern border, you know. I can smell her blood from here. The rogues will finish her tonight, and you will feel every moment of her death through your precious bond." Marcus's control shattered. The wolf surged forward with such force that he shifted fully, ripping through his remaining humanity in seconds. In wolf form, he was massive, more bear than canine, with jaws that could crush stone. Serafina's eyes widened. For the first time, she looked afraid. He drove her back across the courtyard, his teeth snapping inches from her throat. She abandoned grace for survival, threw herself backward through a window. Marcus followed, tracking her scent through the castle corridors. She fled toward the throne room, perhaps seeking the old magic there for protection. Bad choice. The throne room was Marcus's territory, soaked in generations of alpha power. Here, he was strongest. Here, the beast in him knew no limits. Serafina turned at bay, her back to the throne. Marcus advanced, a growl building in his chest that shook the ancient stones. She raised her hands, summoned vampire magic that crackled red and wrong. Lightning arced toward him. He took the hit, let it char his fur, and kept coming. "Please." Her voice finally broke. "We can make a deal. I know where the cure is. The real cure, not just your mate's blood. I can tell you." Marcus shifted back to human, standing naked and burned in front of her. His voice came out layered with the wolf's growl. "I already have my cure. Her name is Elena, and she is worth 1,000 of you." Then he drove his clawed hand through her chest and ripped out her heart. Serafina's scream cut off mid-breath. Her body crumbled to ash that drifted away like snow. The heart in his hand turned to dust. Marcus stood there breathing hard, covered in blood and ash and the remnants of his own burned flesh. His wounds healed slowly, too slowly. The separation from Elena was affecting even his wolf healing. He needed her, needed to see her, touch her, know she was alive. The bond was screaming that something was wrong. "Your Majesty." Thornwood appeared in the doorway, his face gray. "We have won. The vampires have fled, but the casualties are severe. 30 wolves dead, 40 wounded. And sire, there is news from the Eastern Front." Marcus's heart stopped. "Tell me." "The rogues attacked tonight. Captain Declan's camp. It was a massacre. They are holding, but barely. And Lady Winters, she was wounded. They do not know if she will survive the night." The world tilted. Marcus felt the bond pulling, not gently now, but violently, like it was trying to tear him in half. Elena was dying, his mate was dying, and he was 3 days' ride away. "Prepare my horse." Marcus's voice was dead calm. "I leave immediately." "Your Majesty, you are wounded. You need to rest." "I need my mate. Everything else is negotiable." He shifted to wolf form and ran. Did not wait for the horse, did not wait for an escort. Just ran east toward Elena with everything he had, following the bond like a compass needle pointing to true north. Behind him, Thornwood shouted orders. Wolves scrambled to follow their king. But Marcus was already gone, a gray shadow racing against death itself. The eastern border camp burned. Not literally, but it might as well have. The rogues had come at midnight with overwhelming force, 60 of them against Declan's 50, and they fought like demons possessed. The battle lasted 3 hours before the rogues finally retreated, driven back by sheer, desperate ferocity. Elena woke to pain. Her side was on fire, a deep burning that made breathing agony. She tried to sit up and nearly screamed. Someone's hand pressed her shoulder, keeping her down. "Stay still. You have 3 broken ribs and a punctured lung. Moving will make it worse." She turned her head slowly. Agnes's face swam into focus, the healer from Ironmoor. Elena's confusion must have shown because the old woman smiled grimly. "The king sent me ahead 2 days ago. Said he had a feeling you would need a proper healer. Seems his instincts were sound." "What happened?" Elena's voice came out as barely a whisper. "You summoned a spirit wolf during the battle. Saved Captain Declan's life, from what I hear. Also nearly killed yourself doing it." Agnes's hands glowed with soft green light as she worked, knitting bone and tissue with witch magic. "That bloodline power of yours is not a toy, girl. It burns life force. You use too much. I remember the fight." Elena's memories were fractured, coming back in pieces. The rogues swarming the camp, Declan going down under 3 attackers, her own desperation and fury. then light, silver and blinding, pouring out of her chest. A wolf made of pure magic materializing beside her. Its howl had been beautiful and terrible, and every rogue in range had fled from the sound. After that, nothing but pain and darkness. "You saved us." Agnes's voice was gentle. "Fool girl nearly died doing it, but you saved us. 30 rogues dead, the rest scattered. Declan is calling it a miracle. I am calling it stupidity, but effective stupidity. Is he all right? Declan, I mean. 3 broken bones and more cuts than I can count, but he will live." The old healer sat back, her magic fading. "You, on the other hand, are in serious trouble. That wound in your side got infected. Rogue claws are filthy things. I cleaned it, but you need rest, days of it." Elena tried to laugh and coughed instead. Pain lanced through her chest. "How long was I unconscious?" 2 days. Agnes's expression darkened. "And your king is losing his mind. He has been trying to reach you through the bond constantly. The separation sickness, combined with thinking you might die, it is breaking him. He killed Serafina, won the battle at Ironmoor, then shifted to wolf form and ran east. He should arrive tonight." The relief that flooded Elena was so intense it brought tears. "He is coming." "Yes, though honestly, I do not know if he is coming to save you or to die beside you. The bond is that far gone." "No." Elena pushed herself up despite the pain, despite Agnes's protests. "We are not dying, either of us." The healer caught her shoulders, forced her back down. "You can barely breathe, child. You cannot even stand, let alone make grand declarations. Then I will make them lying down." Elena grabbed Agnes's wrist with more strength than she should have had. "How long do we have, before the separation kills us?" "Hours. Maybe until dawn if you are both lucky. The bond is in final stages now. You have to complete the mating, or it will tear you both apart from the inside out." "Then he gets here in time and we finish this." Agnes studied her for a long moment. "You are certain? Once you complete a mate bond, it is forever. Centuries if you are lucky. You will be wolf, bound to an alpha with a beast in his head. You will never have a normal human life." "I stopped being normal the moment I signed that contract." Elena's voice was steady despite the pain. "And Marcus is not a beast. He is a man fighting to stay human. If binding myself to him gives him that anchor, then that is exactly what I will do." The healer nodded slowly. "Then rest. Save your strength. You will need it." Marcus arrived with the dawn. He came in wolf form, a massive gray beast that burst into camp with his fangs bared and murder in his eyes. Every soldier scrambled out of his path. He shifted to human in the center of camp, naked and covered in cuts from running through 3 days of forest without stopping. "Where is she?" It was not a question. Declan pointed to the medical tent. "Sire, you should know she is badly wounded. The healers said it is a miracle she survived at all." Marcus was already moving. He tore through the tent flap like it personally offended him. His eyes found Elena immediately, and everything else ceased to exist. She looked tiny in the field cot, her skin pale, her breathing shallow. Bandages wrapped her torso. The smell of blood and infection hung heavy in the air. Marcus's wolf howled inside his head. "Mate hurt. Heal her. Now." He crossed to her in 3 strides, dropped to his knees beside the cot. His hands hovered over her, afraid to touch and cause more pain. Elena's eyes fluttered open at his presence. When she saw him, her smile was weak but genuine. "You came. Did you think I would not?" Marcus's voice cracked. "I felt you dying, felt you slipping away. I ran for 3 days straight. Nothing on this earth could have stopped me from reaching you." "Dramatic." Elena coughed, winced. "I like it." "This is not funny." He finally touched her, his fingers gentle on her face. "You nearly died. You used power you do not understand and nearly burned yourself out. Do you have any idea what that would have done to me?" She caught his hand, pressed it against her cheek. "The same thing your death would do to me. We are bound, Marcus. Your pain is mine. Your life is mine. That works both ways." The bond pulsed between them, no longer a gentle pull, but a violent demand. They were dying, both of them, and only one thing could save them. Marcus felt the wolf pushing, demanding he complete the mating immediately. The man held back, terrified of hurting her in her wounded state. Agnes appeared in the doorway. "You need to mate, now. I do not care if it is romantic or convenient or any other useless thing. If you do not complete that bond in the next few hours, you will both die. Am I clear?" Marcus looked at Elena. His eyes searched her face for any sign of doubt, any hesitation. "You are certain? Once we do this, there is no going back. You will be mine and I will be yours, until death takes us, and death will not come for centuries." "I am certain." Elena pulled him down until their foreheads touched. "I choose you, Marcus Ravencroft. Man, wolf, beast, king, all of it. I choose this bond. I choose us." Something in Marcus's chest that had been clenched tight for 5 years finally released. The relief was so intense, it was nearly painful. "You are the bravest person I have ever known." "Or the stupidest." "Definitely both." He kissed her, gentle despite the desperation clawing at them both, then stood and addressed the tent. "Everyone out." Agnes ushered the other healers away, throwing Marcus a bundle of furs and blankets. "Try not to reopen her wounds, and for the love of all that is holy, do not shift to Wolf during. She cannot take the size difference right now." "Get out!" The old healer chuckled and left them alone. The tent flap fell closed. Marcus turned back to Elena, and suddenly they were just two people who had run out of time and options. Two souls that fate or magic or sheer stubbornness had bound together. The mating was not gentle. Could not be, with the bond demanding completion, and both of them barely alive. Marcus was careful of her wounds, supporting his weight on his arms, moving with restraint that cost him everything. Elena held him close despite the pain, her nails digging into his shoulders, her breath coming in gasps against his neck. When they joined, the bond exploded outward. Silver and gold light filled the tent, visible even through the canvas. Every wolf in camp felt the power wash over them, felt their alpha claim his mate, and seal the bond that would define the rest of their lives. Marcus bit her shoulder as the climax hit, marking her permanently. Elena bit him back, tasting blood and magic and forever on her tongue. The bond locked into place with an almost audible click, like a key turning in a lock that had waited centuries to open. They collapsed together, breathing hard, wrapped in each other and the blankets. The pain was gone. The separation sickness vanished like it had never existed. In its place was wholeness. Elena felt Marcus in her head, not his thoughts but his presence, solid and unshakable. He felt her the same way, a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with body heat and everything to do with souls recognizing their match. "Is it always like that?" Elena's voice was muffled against his chest. "I do not know." Marcus stroked her hair with shaking hands. "I have never mated before. But if it is, I understand why some wolves spend centuries searching for the right one." "Did you search for me?" "No. You found me, saved me, chose me when every instinct should have told you to run." His arms tightened around her. "I do not deserve you, Elena Winters. Too late. You are stuck with me now." She could feel his amusement through the bond, warm and real. "Also, I can feel your emotions. That is going to take some getting used to." "Likewise." Marcus kissed the top of her head. "Rest now. Heal. When you wake, we have a kingdom to save and enemies to kill." Romantic. "I am a warrior, not a poet. But I am your warrior now, forever." Elena closed her eyes, finally able to sleep without fear. The bond hummed between them like music, steady and sure. Outside the tent, the camp celebrated quietly. Their king had found his mate. The curse was broken. Hope, impossible and stubborn, bloomed in the hearts of soldiers who had forgotten what it felt like. 23 days until the full moon. But the crisis had passed. Marcus and Elena were bonded, mated, whole. Now they just had to survive long enough to claim the future they had both sacrificed so much to secure. As Elena drifted toward sleep, Marcus felt it through the bond, a subtle shift in her body, a heat building beneath her skin that had nothing to do with fever or arousal. The change was beginning. The mate bond's final gift and curse, transforming his human love into something that could stand beside him for centuries. He held her tighter, pressed his face into her hair, and whispered words she could not hear. "I am here. Whatever comes, I am here. We will face this together like we have faced everything else." In her sleep, Elena did not know that her transformation had already begun, that accepting the mate bond with an alpha had consequences beyond love and magic. Her human body was already changing, adapting, preparing for a life that would span centuries instead of decades. When she woke, she would no longer be entirely human. She would be Luna, Alpha's mate, Wolf's chosen. and the enemies circling Ironmore Castle would learn that the Beast King's Omega had teeth of her own. But that revelation would wait for dawn. For now, two broken people slept wrapped in each other's arms, healing from wounds both visible and hidden. The war was far from over, the threats had not diminished, but they would face everything together now, and that made all the difference. Elena woke to pain, unlike anything she had ever known. Every bone in her body felt like it was breaking. Her skin burned as if she had been thrown into a forge. She tried to scream, but the sound that came out was not human. It was a howl, raw and primal, that echoed through the camp and brought every wolf running. Marcus was there instantly, his hands on her face, his voice cutting through the agony. "Breathe. Listen to me, Elena. This is the change. Your body is adapting to the mate bond. You are becoming wolf. Fight through it. I am right here." The transformation was supposed to be gradual for humans who mated wolves, supposed to take weeks, even months, as the body slowly adjusted to supernatural physiology. But Elena had used her bloodline power, had burned through so much of her life force that her body was compensating by accelerating the change. What should have been gentle was violent. What should have been slow was happening in hours. Her bones shifted beneath her skin. She felt her spine elongating, her jaw restructuring. The wolf was not replacing her humanity. It was merging with it, creating something new, something that had not existed before. A human with wolf blood, an Omega with alpha mate bond, a woman who carried the bloodline of mercy and 5 centuries of wolf magic in her veins. Agnes worked frantically, her witch magic trying to ease the transition. But even she looked worried. This is too fast. Her body cannot handle this speed of change. We need to slow it down or she will tear herself apart. You cannot slow a transformation once it starts. Marcus held Elena as she convulsed, his own helplessness a bitter taste. The wolf knows what it is doing. Her body knows. We have to trust the magic. Trust. Declan's voice came from the tent entrance. Easy thing to say when you are not the one being ripped apart and remade. Then offer a solution or get out. Marcus's snarl carried alpha command that made every wolf in range bare their throat in submission. This is my mate, my responsibility. If she dies from this, I die with her. So unless you have something useful to contribute, Captain, shut your mouth and let the healers work. The camp fell silent except for Elena's screams and the low murmur of Agnes's healing chants. Hours crawled by. Dawn gave way to mid-morning, then afternoon. The transformation should have been complete by noon. Instead, it dragged on, merciless and endless, tearing Elena apart cell by cell and rebuilding her into something more. Marcus never left her side. He held her through every convulsion, whispered encouragement through every scream, shared her pain through the bond until he was shaking with it himself. His wolves watched their alpha reduced to desperate prayer and learned something about the depth of mate bonds, about the kind of love that made kings kneel. When the transformation finally completed, the sun was setting on the 4th day since they had mated. Elena opened her eyes, and they glowed silver, pure, luminous silver that lit the dim tent like moonlight. She drew a breath that did not hurt, flexed fingers that ended in retractable claws, and felt the wolf inside her purr with contentment. Marcus. Her voice was changed, carrying harmonics that had not existed before. I can feel everything, every heartbeat in this camp, every breath, the trees growing, the earth turning. Is this what you feel all the time? He laughed, the sound breaking with relief. Welcome to wolf senses. It takes getting used to. He helped her sit up, supporting her weight as she adjusted to a body that was familiar and alien at once. How do you feel? Strong. Elena flexed her hands again, watching the claws extend and retract with just a thought. Powerful. Hungry. Is that normal? For a new wolf? Very. Agnes handed her a water skin. Drink slowly. Your body has been through trauma. It needs time to stabilize. Elena drank, tasting minerals in the water she never would have noticed as human. Tasting the age of the leather skin, the hands that had crafted it. Everything was sharper now, more real. The world had been muffled her entire life, and she had not known until the muffling was stripped away. Can I shift? She looked at Marcus with childlike excitement. Can I become full wolf like you? Eventually. It takes practice and control. Most new wolves cannot shift for weeks after the change completes. His tone was cautious, preparing her for disappointment. Elena closed her eyes and reached for the wolf she felt coiled in her chest. It rose to meet her eagerly, like a dog greeting its master after a long absence. The shift took 3 seconds. Bones rearranged with audible pops. Fur erupted across her skin in a wave of silver white. Her face elongated into a muzzle full of sharp teeth. When she opened her eyes again, she stood on 4 legs instead of 2. She was smaller than Marcus's wolf form, but still large for a female. Her fur was the color of moonlight, her eyes the same luminous silver. She padded forward on silent paws, testing this new body, feeling the power coiled in muscle and sinew. Every wolf in the camp was staring, jaws hung open in shock. Even Declan looked stunned. Agnes just laughed, a sound of pure delight. The bloodline runs true. She is not just Omega, she is Luna incarnate, born to lead beside an alpha. Elena shifted back to human, the transition smooth as water. She stood naked in the center of the tent, completely unself-conscious now that modesty was a human concern she no longer fully shared. Someone handed her clothes. She dressed slowly, still marveling at how everything felt different. So what now? She looked at Marcus, felt his pride and wonder through the bond. We have broken the curse, defeated the vampires. What comes next? Now we go home. Marcus pulled her close, breathing in her new scent. Wild mint and winter wind, fundamentally changed, but still recognizably Elena. We return to Ironmoor, rebuild what was lost, and show the kingdom that their beast king has found his Luna. And then, my love, we make sure no one ever threatens our pack again. The journey back to Ironmoor took 5 days. The army moved slowly, carrying wounded and honoring their dead. Elena rode beside Marcus, learning wolf customs and pack hierarchy from soldiers who now treated her with reverent respect. She was Luna, second only to the Alpha. Her word was law, her protection absolute. 18 days after their journey began, the full moon rose over the eastern forest. Marcus and Elena stood together at the edge of camp, watching silver light paint the world in shades of pearl and shadow. The wolf inside Marcus stirred but did not rage, did not demand, did not fight for control. The curse was truly broken, the bond complete, the beast finally at peace. "We made it," Elena whispered, her hand finding his. "Past the deadline, past the 7th refusal, past everything that should have destroyed you. We made it." Marcus pulled her close, feeling the rightness of her in his arms. "Because of you. Because you were brave enough to choose this, to choose me." But respect had to be earned as well as given. On the 3rd day after the full moon, a young wolf named Thomas challenged her authority, not maliciously, just testing, the way wolves do, to see if the new Luna was strong enough to lead. They faced each other in a clearing while the entire pack watched. Thomas was beta class, strong and skilled. Elena was newly turned, barely 5 days into her wolf life. The smart bet was on Thomas. The entire pack knew it. The fight lasted 30 seconds. Elena used her bloodline power to summon the spirit wolf, merged with it mid-combat, and became something that had never existed before, a physical wolf wrapped in ancestral magic. She moved faster than Thomas could track, hit harder than her size suggested possible, and had him pinned and submitting before he even registered the fight had started. When she shifted back to human, standing over the prone beta with silver light still crackling around her hands, the pack howled approval. She had proven herself, earned her place not through Marcus's authority, but through her own strength. Thomas bared his throat in proper submission. "Forgive me, Luna. I meant no disrespect. I had to know if you were strong enough to follow." Elena offered her hand and pulled him to his feet. "I would have done the same in your place. Test me whenever you doubt. Keep me sharp. That is what good pack does." The beta's eyes shone with loyalty. "I will follow you into any battle, Luna, on my life and honor." The pack echoed his vow. One by one, every wolf pledged themselves to Elena as they had pledged to Marcus. She was no longer the desperate human who had volunteered to save her family. She was Luna Elena Ravencroft, mate to the Alpha, leader of the pack, and the woman who would help rebuild a kingdom from ashes. Marcus watched it all with fierce pride. Through the bond, she felt his emotions: admiration, possessiveness, love so deep it was almost frightening. And underneath it all, the wolf that had screamed for 5 years was finally, blissfully silent. It had what it wanted: mate, pack, home. Ironmore Castle rose before them on the 6th day, and Elena saw her new home with wolf eyes. The fortress was scarred from battle. Walls showed blast marks from vampire magic. The courtyard still bore bloodstains that rain had not washed away. But the gates stood open and welcoming. Banners flew from the towers, and the people, wolves and humans both, lined the approach road to cheer their king's return. Marcus rode at the head of the column, Elena at his side. They made an imposing pair, the scarred warrior king and his silver Luna. Beast and beauty, violence and mercy, two halves of the same coin finally united. Thornwood waited at the gates, his old face creased with relief. "Your Majesty." "Luna, welcome home. The castle stands ready to receive you." "How many did we lose?" Marcus dismounted, helping Elena down with unconscious chivalry. 35 in the vampire siege, another 12 from wounds after. The Chancellor's voice was heavy. "We burned them with honor. Their families have been compensated. The wounded are recovering in the healer's wing." "And the vampires?" "Scattered. Seraphina's death broke their coordination. Most fled north toward the mountains. We are hunting the stragglers, but it will take time to eliminate them all. Then we have time." Marcus turned to address the assembled crowd. His voice carried without shouting, alpha command making every word resonate. "My people, we have won a great victory. The curse is broken. The vampires are defeated. Your Luna stands beside me, proof that even the darkest magic can be overcome by courage and sacrifice. But victory is not the end. It is a beginning. We rebuild. We strengthen. We prepare for the next threat, because threats always come, and when they do, they will find us ready. They will find us united. They will find us unbreakable." The crowd roared approval. Elena felt the pack bond expand to include not just the wolves, but every person who called Ironmore home. This was what she had sensed in Marcus from the beginning. Not the beast, the leader, the king who would die for his people if that was what it took to keep them safe. The coronation was held 3 days later in the great throne room, cleaned and repaired from the vampire battle. Every noble in the kingdom attended, drawn by curiosity and politics and the simple human need to witness history. They came expecting spectacle and got something deeper, a transformation of the kingdom itself reflected in the two people standing before the throne. Marcus wore his crown, the ancient circlet of wolf silver that marked him as Alpha King. But he did not sit on the throne. He stood beside it, waiting. The message was clear. The throne had space for two. Lord Thornwood presided over the ceremony, his voice formal and grave. "We gather to witness the coronation of Luna Elena Ravencroft, mate to Alpha King Marcus, leader of the pack and co-ruler of this kingdom. By right of blood bond and trial by combat, she claims the throne that has sat empty for 20 years. Who speaks for her?" "I do." Marcus stepped forward. This woman came to save a king she had never met. She faced impossible odds, survived battle and betrayal, and chose to bind herself to me when any sane person would have run. She is stronger than she looks, smarter than she acts, and braver than I will ever be. She has earned this crown 10 times over, and I am proud beyond words to stand beside her. I speak for her." Declan's rough voice carried from the crowd. "She saved my life on the battlefield, fought beside my soldiers as one of us, proved herself in blood and courage. If she commands, I follow, on my honor as Beta." One by one, others spoke. Agnes vouched for her wisdom. Thomas praised her strength. Common soldiers told stories of her tending wounded under fire, of her spirit wolf driving back rogues, of her refusing to break when everything tried to break her. Elena stood silent through it all, overwhelmed by the weight of their faith. She had come here desperate and terrified, willing to do anything to save her family. Now she stood on the edge of becoming a queen. The journey between those 2 points felt impossibly vast, and also like it had happened in the span of a heartbeat. Thornwood raised the second crown, twin to Marcus's but delicate where his was brutal. "Elena Ravencroft, do you accept the duties and burdens of Luna? Do you swear to lead with wisdom, fight with courage, and protect this pack with your life? Do you claim this throne as yours by right?" "I do." Elena's voice did not waver. She felt Marcus beside her, solid and sure through the bond. felt the pack holding its collective breath. I swear on my blood and my life, I will serve this kingdom and lead this pack. I will be the mercy that balances the alpha's strength. I will be the wisdom that tempers the warrior's rage. I claim this throne not because I seek power, but because the people who have become my family deserve a leader who will fight for them with everything she has. And that is exactly what I will do. The crown settled on her head, cold and heavy and perfect. Marcus took her hand and led her to the throne. They sat together, Alpha and Luna, king and queen, two rulers bound by magic and choice and love that had conquered curses and death. The throne room erupted in cheers that shook the ancient stones. The Beast King and his Luna. Ironmore had not just survived the darkness. It had transformed, emerging stronger and stranger and infinitely more dangerous to its enemies. But the celebration was cut short by a messenger arriving at full sprint. "Your Majesties," he gasped, dropping to one knee. "Urgent news from the northern border. Lord Draven approaches with an army. 200 vampires, maybe more. He demands to speak with you before attacking." The name Draven sent whispers through the assembled nobles. Everyone knew that name. Ancient vampire lord, 800 years old, master strategist, and ruthless beyond measure. If he had come personally, the threat was existential. Marcus and Elena exchanged a look. Through the bond, understanding passed wordlessly. This was not over. The real war was just beginning. But they would face it the same way they had faced everything else, together. "Send word we will meet him." Marcus stood, Elena rising with him. "Neutral ground. Dawn tomorrow. We will hear what he has to say before we kill him." The northern border was neutral ground where three kingdoms met. Ancient treaties guaranteed safe passage for diplomatic meetings, though no one truly trusted the magic that enforced them. Marcus and Elena arrived with 50 guards, enough to show strength without provoking attack. Lord Draven waited with 20 vampires, all of them old enough to walk in daylight without burning. He was tall and pale, beautiful in the way of predators. His eyes were crimson, ancient, and completely devoid of human mercy. When he smiled at their approach, his fangs were like white daggers. The Beast King and his newly crowned Luna, how delightful. Draven's voice carried aristocratic contempt. "Seraphina spoke highly of you before you murdered her. She attacked my kingdom." Marcus kept his tone neutral. "I defended it. If that offends you, feel free to try avenging her." "Tempting, but I am not here for revenge." Draven's smile widened. "I am here to offer alliance." The proposal hung in the air like a blade. Elena felt the shock ripple through their guards. Vampires did not offer alliance with wolves. The two species had been enemies since the dawn of civilization. This was either an unprecedented opportunity or a trap so obvious it insulted intelligence. "Why?" Elena spoke before Marcus could. "Why would you ally with the people who killed your agent?" "Because Seraphina was not my agent. She was a fool who thought she could use me for her own petty revenge." Draven's expression suggested what he thought of fools. "I let her play her games because it kept her busy, but now she is dead, and I find myself facing a more interesting problem." "Which is?" Marcus's claws had extended slightly. The wolf in him did not trust this vampire at all. "The Eastern Empire." Draven's casual tone did not match the weight of those words. "They are expanding west, conquering everything in their path. In 5 years, maybe 10, they reach your borders. In 20, they reach mine. Separately, we fall. United, we might survive." Elena's mind raced. The Eastern Empire was distant legend, a massive kingdom across the mountains that had been expanding for generations. If they truly were moving west, every kingdom in the region would be threatened. An alliance between wolves and vampires could shift the balance of power entirely. But it would also mean trusting creatures that had tried to kill them weeks ago. Trusting a vampire lord who admitted to letting Seraphina wage her campaign unchecked. The risk was enormous. The alternative might be worse. "What terms?" Elena asked. "If we were to consider this alliance, what would it entail?" Draven's smile turned approving. "The Luna asks the right questions. I like that. The terms are simple. Non-aggression pact between our territories. Joint military exercises to prepare for empire invasion. Trade agreements to strengthen both economies. And one additional clause, which is," Marcus's voice was dangerous, "your future children will be fostered in my court for 2 years of their education. Learning vampire culture, building relationships that will last centuries. In exchange, my heir will be fostered in your pack. Insurance that neither side betrays the other, since harming the hostage children means war. It was a brilliant proposal, horrifying and strategic in equal measure. Elena felt Marcus's fury through the bond. The idea of sending his children to live with vampires made every instinct scream rejection. But the political reality was undeniable. If the Eastern Empire was truly coming, they needed allies, and vampires were immortal, powerful, and exactly the kind of enemy you wanted on your side instead of against you. We need time to discuss this. Elena's diplomatic tone covered her own racing thoughts. Such an alliance would reshape the region. We cannot agree without consulting our council. Of course. Draven inclined his head with mocking courtesy. You have until the next full moon. 20 days. After that, my offer expires, and I make other arrangements. Choose wisely, Luna. The Empire does not negotiate. They conquer, and when they come, you will wish you had friends with fangs. The vampire lord departed with his escort, leaving Marcus and Elena standing in no man's land with the weight of impossible choices crushing down on them. We cannot trust him. Marcus's voice was flat. This is another trap, another scheme. Maybe. Elena watched the vampires disappear into the forest. Or maybe it is exactly what he says. A pragmatic alliance between old enemies facing a new threat. Stranger things have happened. You want to send our children to live with monsters? I want our children to have a future. She turned to face him, taking his hands. If the Empire is real, if they are coming, we need every advantage. I hate this as much as you do. But what I hate more is the idea of our pack slaughtered, because we were too proud to make hard choices. Marcus pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. When did you become the wise one? The moment I decided to save a cursed king instead of running like a sensible person. They returned to Ironmoor and called a council. For 3 days they debated. Nobles argued about honor and tradition. Military advisors calculated force ratios and supply lines. Common folk spoke of old hatreds and ancestral grudges. And through it all, Elena and Marcus listened, learned, and made their decision. On the 4th day, they sent their answer to Lord Draven. The alliance would proceed. Terms would be negotiated in detail over the coming months. And when Elena and Marcus's children were old enough, 2 years of their education would be spent in Draven's court, learning that yesterday's enemies could become tomorrow's allies if survival demanded it. The decision was controversial. Half the kingdom celebrated the forward-thinking alliance. Half decried it as betrayal of everything wolves stood for. But everyone agreed on one thing. Their rulers were not afraid to make the choices that kept people alive, even when those choices tasted like poison. 6 months passed. Winter gave way to spring. The scars of battle faded, though they never fully disappeared. Ironmoor thrived under dual leadership, Marcus's strength balanced by Elena's wisdom. The pack grew, absorbing smaller groups who heard about the Luna with silver eyes and spirit wolves at her command. Elena stood on the battlements one morning, watching the sunrise paint the world in shades of gold and rose. She had taken to walking the walls at dawn, using the quiet time to think and plan, and simply breathe in the peace they had fought so hard to secure. Marcus found her there, as he always did. His arms wrapped around her from behind, and she leaned into his warmth. Through the bond, she felt his contentment, his love, the absolute certainty that he had made the right choice in everything that mattered. You are thinking too loud. His voice rumbled against her back. I can feel the wheels turning in your head even without the bond. Just planning. We have the alliance to finalize, the eastern border to fortify, new recruits to train. A kingdom does not run itself. The kingdom can wait 5 minutes. Marcus turned her to face him. His eyes were soft in the morning light, brown with just hints of gold. The wolf was still there, would always be there, but it no longer fought for control. It had everything it needed, right here in his arms. Elena, there is something I need to tell you. She felt his nervousness through the bond and smiled. I already know. I have known for 2 weeks. His eyes widened. How? Wolf senses, remember? I can smell the change in my own body, hear the second heartbeat, feel the life growing. She placed his hand on her still flat stomach. We are having twins, a boy and a girl, if Agnes's magic is accurate. Marcus went very still. Then he dropped to his knees on the stone walkway, pressing his forehead against her stomach. The gesture was reverence and prayer and gratitude too deep for words. When he looked up, tears tracked down his scarred face. "I never thought I would have this. Family, future, hope. I was so certain I would die alone and cursed. And then you walked into my throne room and changed everything." Elena ran her fingers through his hair, feeling her heart swell with emotion that the bond amplified until it was almost too much to contain. "You were never meant to die alone. You were meant to live, to lead, to love, and to raise children who will be stronger and wiser because they have both of us guiding them. They will be terrors, absolutely, just like their father and their mother." Marcus stood and kissed her, deep and thorough and full of promise. Around them, the castle was waking. Their pack was stirring. The kingdom waited for leadership and protection, and all the 1,000 daily decisions that came with power. But for just this moment, they were simply Marcus and Elena, two people who had found each other in darkness and built something beautiful from the ruins of curses and war. Below in the courtyard, a new servant girl arrived, nervous and uncertain. She was met by Thomas, now captain of the guard, after Declan retired to advisory role. The girl asked in trembling voice if the stories were true, if the king was really as terrible as legends claimed. Thomas laughed and pointed toward the battlements, where the king and queen stood wrapped in each other's arms against the rising sun. He was terrible. He was the Beast King, and he earned that name in blood. But she saved him, showed him there was more to strength than violence, more to leadership than fear. Now look at them. Greatest love story I have ever seen, and I watched it happen. The servant girl looked up at the distant figures. "Is it true the Luna used to be human?" "True as sunrise." Thomas's voice carried pride. "Came here desperate and mortal, volunteered when no one else would, survived everything that should have killed her. And in the end, she did not just save the king. She became something entirely new, something the world has never seen before, human and wolf, Omega and Luna, mercy and strength combined." The girl smiled, and some of the fear left her face. "Then maybe there is hope for the rest of us, too. Maybe there is." Thomas led her toward the servants' entrance. "That is what they teach us, that curses can be broken, that darkness can be survived, that love, real love, the kind that fights and bleeds and refuses to quit, that kind of love can transform even beasts into men, and monsters into legends." Years passed. The twins were born, a boy with his father's dark eyes and a girl with her mother's silver gaze. They were named Catherine and William, after the grandparents they would never meet, but whose legacy lived on in every choice their parents made. The children grew strong and wild, learning to shift before they could properly walk, training in combat before they started formal education. When the time came, they were sent to Lord Draven's court for their promised 2 years. Marcus paced the battlements like a caged wolf the entire time they were gone. Elena kept herself busy with kingdom management and tried not to let her own fear show. But the children thrived in vampire territory, learning diplomacy and strategy and how to see enemies as potential allies. When they returned, they were changed, wiser, stranger, but still fundamentally themselves. The Eastern Empire reached their borders in the 8th year of Marcus and Elena's reign. The war that followed was brutal and long, testing every alliance they had built and every lesson they had learned. But wolves and vampires fought side by side, united against a common threat. And in the end, they held. Not just held, but pushed back, reclaiming territory and forcing the Empire to recognize them as equals rather than victims. Through it all, Marcus and Elena ruled together. He was the strength that never wavered. She was the wisdom that saw paths through impossible situations. Together they built a kingdom that became legend. The Beast King who learned to love, the Luna who transformed from human to something greater. The alliance that should not have worked but changed the world. Decades passed, then centuries. The twins had children of their own. The kingdom expanded and evolved, adapting to changing times while holding fast to the values their founders had bled to establish. And still, Marcus and Elena led, their love as strong at 200 years as it had been in those first desperate days when a desperate human girl bet everything on saving a cursed king. On their 200th anniversary, they stood together on the battlements of Ironmoor, older but not diminished, powerful in ways that transcended physical strength. Below them, the kingdom celebrated with feast and festival. Above them, stars wheeled in patterns that had seen empires rise and fall, but had never seen anything quite like them. "Do you regret it?" Marcus asked. "Giving up your humanity, your normal life, everything you could have been?" Elena laughed, the sound as warm as it had been when she was 23 and walking into a throne room to face a monster. "I could have been a miller's daughter struggling to survive in a backwater village. Instead, I am Luna of Ironmoor, mother of legends, and mate to the most stubborn, impossible, wonderful man I have ever known. Regret does not even enter the equation. I was a beast. I am still a beast some days. Then I loved the beast." She turned in his arms to face him, eyes still that luminous silver that marked her as something unique in all the world. "You think I do not know what you are? I knew from the first moment. And I chose you anyway. I will choose you every day for the rest of eternity. That is what mate bonds mean." Marcus kissed her, soft and reverent. Below, the celebration continued. Their children watched and smiled, recognizing the bond that had built everything they knew. The pack felt the Alpha and Luna's love through the bonds that connected them all, and it made them stronger. This was the legacy. Not the battles won or the alliances forged, not the territory claimed or the enemies defeated. The legacy was this moment, this choice renewed every day to stand beside each other no matter what came, to be strength and mercy and balance, to remember that even beasts could love and that love could transform everything. The night deepened, stars shone bright, and in Ironmoor Castle, the Beast King and his Luna held each other close and knew without doubt that they had found exactly what they needed. Not a fairy tale ending where everything was perfect, but a real ending, hard-won and blood-bought, where two broken people became whole by choosing each other, again and again and again. And that was worth every curse, every battle, every impossible choice they had ever faced. The end.